Bill Bixby's story is one of struggle, courage, and kindness that touched everyone who worked with him. In 1978, when a 21-year-old deaf bodybuilder named Lou Ferrigno arrived on the set of The Incredible Hulk, he was terrified and had never acted before. But Bill Bixby, who played Dr. David Banner, immediately took him under his wing. Off-camera, Bixby spent hours teaching him how to act, how to move, and how to express emotions without words. He even protected Lou's hearing aids from being damaged by the thick green makeup. The long, exhausting workdays left many crew members sick or quitting, but Bixby stayed strong and kept Lou going. What grew between them wasn't just a work relationship, it was a deep bond built on trust and care that changed both their lives. Bixby's story started long before The Incredible Hulk. Born in 1934, he had a childhood marked by hardship. His father worked as a store clerk earning barely enough to feed the family, and his mother, Jane, struggled to keep them afloat during the Great Depression. When Bixby was just 8, his father joined the Navy, leaving Jane to raise him alone. They moved into smaller homes, and there were many nights when young Bill went to bed hungry. He sang in the church choir to help bring in a few extra dollars, but that ended after a strange incident in 1947. During a service, the 13-year-old Bill took out a slingshot and hit a bishop during Mass. It was something he planned, not an accident. The scandal embarrassed his mother and cost him the choir income they needed so badly. But it showed something that defined him for life. He wasn't afraid to challenge authority when he believed something was wrong. When he turned 18 in 1952, Bixby faced the draft for the Korean War. Instead of waiting to be called, he joined the Marine Corps Reserve, where he worked in a personnel unit in California. It was safer than combat and allowed him to dream of more than survival. After leaving the service, he attended UC Berkeley but dropped out just short of graduation because he was broke. He moved to Los Angeles and worked long hours at the Hollywood Roosevelt Hotel as a desk clerk and lifeguard, barely earning enough to live. But being at that hotel turned out to be the opportunity he needed. Movie stars often visited the pool, and one day some advertising executives from Detroit noticed him and offered him a modeling job paying much more than he made at the hotel. That job opened the door to his acting career. He used his small earnings to take acting lessons and started landing small roles. By 1959, he was performing on stage in The Boyfriend in Detroit, living on beans and bread because the pay was so low. Still, his performance caught the eye of talent scouts, and when he returned to Los Angeles, he signed with an agent. Soon after, he got his first TV role on The Many Loves of Dobie Gillis. Then in 1963, his big break came when he was cast as Tim O'Hara in My Favorite Martian. The show became a huge hit and made Bixby a familiar face in every home. Even with fame, Bixby never stopped working hard. He wanted to prove he could do more than comedy. He appeared in films with Elvis Presley, like Clambake in 1967 and Speedway in 1968, earning respect from Elvis himself for his professionalism. By the early 1970s, Bixby began directing episodes of his own shows. On The Courtship of Eddie's Father, he played a widowed dad and also directed several episodes. His on-screen relationship with young actor Brandon Cruz was so genuine that it turned into a real-life friendship. Bixby became a father figure to the boy, who later named his own son after him. In 1977, Bixby took on the role that would define him forever, Dr. David Banner in The Incredible Hulk. He told CBS executives he didn't want it to be a silly kids show like Batman. He wanted real emotion and depth. The pilot aired in November 1977 and was an instant success. The show ran for 5 years and became a cultural phenomenon. Behind the scenes, however, the work was grueling. Lou Ferrigno, as the Hulk, spent hours in makeup every day and worked long, punishing hours. The green paint irritated his skin, and he could barely rest between takes. Through it all, Bixby helped him, guiding him patiently and making sure he was protected and respected. But while his career was thriving, Bixby's personal life was filled with pain. In 1981, tragedy struck when his 6-year-old son, Christopher, suddenly died from a throat infection while on a ski trip with him. The doctor had delayed treatment, and by the time they tried to help, it was too late. Bixby was devastated and later said the experience left him full of rage and heartbreak. Just a year later, his ex-wife Brenda Benet, Christopher's mother, took her own life after being unable to cope with their son's death. Losing both of them in such a short time nearly destroyed Bixby, but he turned to his work to survive. He continued acting and directing, including directing episodes of The Incredible Hulk himself. One of his most powerful episodes was the first, which he directed in 1981. In 1988, he reprised his role in The Incredible Hulk Returns, where the Hulk teamed up with Thor. Bixby wanted the story to stay emotional and grounded, even when the network pushed for more action. He made sure the sad music and emotional tone stayed just as fans loved it. Through the late 1980s, he kept directing, working on shows like Sledgehammer and Blossom. His ability to find humor and heart even when he was suffering amazed everyone. In 1991, he was diagnosed with prostate cancer, but he didn't stop working. Even when the disease spread through his body, he kept directing Blossom, never letting anyone see how much pain he was in. In 1990, he directed and starred in The Death of the Incredible Hulk, which became one of his most emotional performances. He was supposed to return for a sequel called The Revenge of the Incredible Hulk, where Banner would come back to life with the Hulk's body in his own mind. But his illness ended those plans. In his final months, he still worked whenever he could. His last directing job was on Blossom, just days before he died. On November 21, 1993, Bill Bixby passed away at age 59 at his home in Los Angeles. He had fought cancer for 3 long years and lived longer than doctors expected. At his funeral, hundreds came to honor him, not just as a great actor and director, but as a man who stayed kind, humble, and strong through unimaginable pain. Everyone who knew him said the same thing: Bixby never complained, never treated anyone as lesser, and always lifted people up. Lou Ferrigno called him a mentor and father figure, saying that Bixby taught him not just how to act, but how to live with dignity. Brandon Cruz remembered him as the man who showed him love when he needed it most. Even when everything in his life seemed to fall apart, Bixby stayed compassionate and devoted to his craft. His story is about more than Hollywood fame, it's about resilience, empathy, and humanity. He carried enormous grief but turned it into strength and used it to help others grow. Through all the long shooting days, sleepless nights, and heartbreaks, Bill Bixby never stopped believing in the power of kindness and hard work. His legacy lives on not just through his shows, but through the lives he touched and the people he inspired to keep going, no matter how painful life gets.